Well, it's very nice to be back here at St. John's, and unless I do something horrible, I'll be back next week. So I look forward to seeing you next week as well. We've got a dog. We've had retrievers. We have another retriever. Anybody who's had a retriever knows that they're a little different. You know, it's like you come with a special dog, needs dog, and sometimes. Our little dog is very sweet. He's 2 years old and he's a yellow lab, only he's mostly white and he sheds like crazy. And he likes to play a game. He's played this game for quite a while. The game is that if you leave a sock or a glove or something on the floor, he picks it up. And most dogs do that, you know, and you chase them around and try it again. But he runs around and then he picks up one of his toys, like drone crocodile or the slippery worm, and he puts that in his mouth to hide the sock or the glove. And then he smiles and runs around because now you don't know what he's got. If he's got the drone crocodile, or does he have a glove? It's very, 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 I never had a dog that did that. Maybe you have. It's fun. It's really a lot of fun. You see, he's covering up. He's covering up what he really wants with something that he doesn't care for. He just as soon give up those stuffed animals in order to keep the glove or the sock. I would suggest that part of the gospel today is doing the same sort of thing. And I think we don't have to be revisionists, we don't have to, make up new stories, but we do need to look at the gospel, as it's written, by what we know now about Jesus, and by what we know about the life that Jesus led. And that is, what do we know? We know that God is love, and God cannot deny God, period. And if we know nothing else, that's what we know. St. Augustine said, God is love, period. He didn't even get into the denial part. God is love, and God cannot deny God, period. So when we read something in the gospel that flies in the face of that, then we say to ourselves, what's going on here? Why is this there? What is it doing? So the line, if you don't forget it, if you didn't remember it, has to do with whoever blasphemes about the Holy Spirit can never have forgiveness, but will have eternal sin. No. That's not right. If God is love and God cannot deny oneself, then anybody who does whatever happens is going to bask in the love of God. See, that's the point, wasn't it? Why are these things in the gospel? Why are these things in our morality codes? Why are these things written after the fact? They're written after the fact because we try to keep people in line, the line that we want them to toe. We've done a lot of damage. We've done a lot of damage. When you think about the people that we've kept in line over and against the people that we've let go free, we've done a lot of damage. This is supposed to lend itself to a way of being so that we'll make changes in our life, so we'll make different decisions in our life, so we will choose the right way to live, so we will choose to live as God. That's not how it works. Well, sometimes I take my cue from the Roman Catholic Church. I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily. I take my cue from some Buddhists. I take my cue from Jews. I take my cue from lots of different people because anytime I think I hear the truth, I'm willing to follow it. And let's just look at what do the Romans do? The Romans come right out and they say certain things like, everything we do from now on, Pope John Paul II, everything we do from now on, we're going to think through a preferential preference for the poor. That went over really big. That went over really big. That is, everything you do, you think about the poor first. So for instance, and I raised this question years ago when I was a very young priest in a very wealthy congregation. And we raised the question this way. You like to fly fish. This guy likes to fly fish. He goes to Chile to fly fish. And there's a guy in Chile who makes 6 fly rods a year, graphic fly rods. And they're really expensive. So we said to him, hey, you don't need that rod. You don't need to spend, whatever, $40,000 on a fly rod. You can get a really nice fly rod for $5,000. Let's take the difference between the $40,000 and the $5,000 and we'll give it to the poor. So we'll give $35,000 to the poor. You write a check to the poor if you want to do that. Nobody wanted to do that. We live in a consumer place where if that's something I want, I get it. And so what they did do, they're very nice. They'd say, well, Tom, I know you got this project you're going, you need some money. Let me write a check. Let me write a check, Tom. 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 So they write checks. It doesn't cost them anything. It costs them nothing. There's no pain involved. There's no suffering. There's no thinking about it. And so end up going to the same club that their parents have gone to and grandparents have gone to and show up drunk in the back for midnight mass. Life goes on because they're the people that got all the money and can make the choices. So the Catholics come up with stuff like that. Most recently, and I don't know if anybody really followed this, it didn't get a lot of press, and I'll tell you why it didn't get a lot of press in just a minute, was that Pope Francis said and says that there is no hell. Did anybody hear that? Anybody read that? There is no hell. No hell. No more. The ontological part of hell that he's thought about with purgatory and all the big, and all those things that you've gone and seen. When I was younger, I went to France and I went to the Musée Rodin and I saw the gates of hell. And I looked at that gates of hell and I said to myself, you don't want to step one more foot into those gates of hell. If that's what hell is like, you don't want to go there. If you've never seen it, pull it up online. But we, and I think this is what the Pope had been thinking about partly. He had a lot of things he was thinking about. But we say, oh, isn't this cute? Here's a cartoon from New Yorker. And there's 2 guys in hell, because you can tell they're in hell because they're little demons, going around, and they're sitting there. And one says to the other, while they're both in hell, I'd give anything for a cup of hot coffee. It's pretty funny. It's pretty funny, I think. You can laugh about that. I think it's pretty funny. But hell then becomes wanting to get a hot, a cup of hot coffee. No, hell wasn't like that. Hell was used to scare people. Or it was used to come up and say to somebody, go to hell. And they'd say, what do you mean, go to hell? There's no hell anymore. The Pope says, well, then blah, 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 you. It's like it's all changing. The world is changing. So what is hell now? What's the bishop? What's the Pope getting at? What is hell? I'll tell you what hell is. And he figured he sat like we're supposed to sit for a long time and meditated and prayed, and then he said a few things, and a few other people said a few things, and it made sense to everybody. And all of a sudden, Jean-Paul Sartre was coming back up into everybody's view, and Sartre says, hell is other people. Damn right. Hell is not some ontological place that, somebody's spirit lives in. Hell is other people. And let's not forget it. And Sartre didn't forget it. He fought in the resistance. He saw people killed, his buddies killed. He saw people tortured. Hell's other people. It's not any place. Hell's other people. Hell's the people. People that lie and cheat and steal and rape and do all the things that we say aren't right, and yet, somehow we forgive them. We have to forgive them. That's what we're called to do. Hell is other people. And we have to make some sense out of that. But to deny that there's some hell other than us is to deny a strong reality of God. It takes God out of the picture altogether. It's kind of a sad homily here. Kind of a sad homily. You gotta think about all this stuff. And I know you Episcopalians think about all this stuff, and and it's important. And I think the Pope really made a huge mark, obviously, in the history of theology by doing that. And I think the more that we decide that we can't scare people anymore, we can't shame people anymore. I think what we all, it's just not the Canadians, but the Americans did it too. What we did to indigenous people, based on hell. It's frightening. Even the Quakers. So we are asked to come into relationship with everybody based on the reality that you and I are hell. Can't we accept the stuff that tears down the love of other people? That's a hellish thing to do. And Jesus said the only way we can do this now is because he set up a paradigm that we can live through. And that is, here are my mother and my brothers and my sister. Whoever does the will of God is my brother and my sister and my mother. Whoever does the will of God has a relationship with God. That's a pretty big deal. And I would suggest that we begin, and I know this is very difficult because we live in a polarized country. I would suggest that we try to see everybody as our mother, as our brother, as our sister. If we can't do that, we can at least begin where the Dalai Lama begins. The Dalai Lama begins when he meets somebody, he meets them as he's meeting an old friend. Even though he's not seen them before, he's meeting them as an old friend. And I would suggest to you that's a way in which we can try living for a while. If we were in Lent, I'd say, well, we'll just do that for Lent. Because that's an ontological shift in the way we see people. It's hard to do. Really hard to do. Anyway, the possibility is there, and I think we can accept that possibility because we've all done that at some point. We've all accepted another person as our mother, brother, sister, someone that we love deeply, who had the kind of time that we could we could enjoy, that we could move away from the kind of normalcy of relationships that you and I often have. Just the final thing. You can do it. You can do it. We all can do it. I worked in corrections, mental health, for 6 years. And I met people that were, I would just call, just scumbags. Just awful people. They were awful people. They were absolutely awful people. There's nothing good, I think we have to be able to judge, there's nothing good about KKK people or white supremacists or white Aryan race people. If we want to label one group or a bunch of groups of people, those are not people that you want to hang out with. Those are not people we want to make adjustments around. We want to say, yeah, I had a really bad childhood, and these guys remind me of that, and I'm going to get away from them because they do horrible things to people. They don't just march in Charlottesville. They do horrible things, and they get caught, and they end up some time, and they do their initiations, and then they go back and they do horrible things again. These horrible people. So we've got to have some sensitivity, a little bit of sensitivity here, and that's where I would suggest to begin. Everybody but that group of people. See what it's like to hang out with them. See what it's like to have a conversation with them. See what it's like to buy them a cup of coffee. See what it's like just to spend some time. Because that's where we are. There's nothing any better that we're going to get. Because we're not going to go to hell, so we might as well go to heaven, and we might as well think about, benefits that we kind of helped with while we were here. Not that you have to do anything really to go to heaven, probably, but it probably doesn't hurt. And it also it'll allow each one of us to open ourselves to the wonderful way in which we have lived, what we have seen, and the history that we hope to create in the future. Amen.